Okay, so let's just mind in the Danchen. I mean, this is what we do when we meditate anyway, but when you can use your physical body, it's just makes this a little bit more exact. So the hand, the thumb in the navel, and the fingers just cupping underneath it. And I normally make a fist with the other hand. So the idea of the fist is that you're stimulating the Lagun point, which is the middle of the palm. And it's normally the ring finger that actually digs in a little bit when you make the fist, like you're sort of pressing into the middle of the palm with either the ring finger or the middle finger. And just allowing the physicality, the structure that you put yourself in, to just bring the mind to where it needs to be, which is the Danchen. Because the problem is when we give ourselves that instruction, mind in the Danchen, it's a bit vague. And the trouble is with the mind, it sort of pleases itself. And so generally, when you say to someone, put the mind in the Danchen, they just bring an image of the Danchen into their mind. So rather than their head getting down into their belly comes up into their head. So here, I'm pressing in with this hand here to feel it, to actually feel that sort of pressure on my body, and just allow that to bring my mind down. So when I practice with my students, we really, I will get them leaning forwards onto my fist, which is in their Danchen, in their belly. Yes, so they have to tighten their belly to stop my fist from going in. And it just means that they just become very sort of unified. The body becomes very unified and capable, unified about that point, the point of the Danchen. So this is what we're wanting. Okay, and now let's just breathe. But again, just tightening the Danchen, so pulling those muscles to draw the hands in, and then pushing the belly out to push the hands apart. So pulling in and out. So just really feeling that it is the motor of the belly that's actually doing the work. And just feeling the mood change. So when you pull into the belly, you just become a little bit mean and detached. And then when you push the belly out, you're sort of, it's like a sense of willingness. You're coming out in order to connect. Here you're detaching, pulling into yourself. So we're going through a real range of moods. And we just want to feel it. Okay. And now just feeling the three centers. So the dantian, the head point, and the heart. So we want to feel the heart as being an upper heart and a lower heart. So the lower heart is the bit that's deepest in your chest. And the upper heart is the part that almost protrudes, so the crest of the sternum. So the lower heart is the feminine part. So the part that just wants to embrace and draw the child in to their loving warmth. And the upper heart, the crest, the thymus, is the masculine heart, so the aggressive thrust out, you know, the sort of the willingness to sort of pioneer, to venture into the world. And, yeah, so it's like real risk taking. So, so we just want to do this heart qigong and just be aware of this structure. So just reaching out and then just bringing in to that lower heart. And the lower heart is connected to the belly. So there's almost a sense that you sort of collapse and the lower heart joins with the belly point. And then you come up and then you hit the upper heart and that reaches up into the head. So the upper heart is connected to the head center. And then you just let it sink through the points. Okay, so just out. And then just bringing the world into the lower heart, to your loving warmth, letting it mingle with the dantian, and then coming up through them, and then you're leaping into the upper heart, and then the upper heart really reaches up into the middle of the head and all the way through to the crown, fountains out at the top of the head, and cascades down all around you. So out. So here, just feel this drawing in. So you draw into the heart, but it dips down into the dantian. And then the upper heart comes up. And fountains out. So reaching out. Bringing it in. So the belly is sort of contracting. And then here, this is obviously the lower back is starting to tighten to send the energy up and out. So this is the lower back, and then it's the belly that draws in and down. And then it's the back that pushes this up and just allows it to explode out. And then one more. So out. And just drawing in. We want this sense of drawing in. We're not just letting it happen, we're actually actively drawing it in. And then this, we have to actively do this because it won't do itself. And then down. Okay. And now let's just try rolling the ball. So trying our best to keep the center of the ball pretty much stationary and just rolling the hands around the ball. And again, just feeling how it shifts. You know, there's this point here where we're sort of symmetrical, and then the two sides of the body do opposite things. And so we're going through, again, a range. So the most important thing really is just to feel it, to be with it. You're not just doing a habitual exercise. It should feel fresh and new, so almost like you've never done it before. You're just feeling the world, sensing the world anew. I came across a lovely phrase recently, phenomenological density. So it's like there's so much happening that you're almost overwhelmed by the richness. So there's no room for your own mind to think to itself. Boredom is an impossibility. John always used to say, the only people that get bored are the boring people. Yeah. So this is just so full and pregnant with feeling that you almost get tearful in its experience. Yeah. And now just slowly sort of just turning the shoulders, so just moving the ball from side to side. So you're just trying to keep the revolutions even. But now just turning the head and the shoulders so that the center of the ball will move from left to right a little bit. And just feeling the sort of the tone that you need to maintain in the dantian lower back area, so that you can twist as far as possible without hurting yourself. Okay. And now let's just bring it into prayer. And now just turning the head. And just trying to feel the difference between how it feels inside when you look to the left to how it feels inside when you look to the right. Is there a difference? Yeah, can you perceive a difference? Okay, great. So the internal and the external. So this Taoist structure of reality, you know, that there's an outside, there's an inside, there's an exoteric, there's an esoteric, there's a exposed, and there's a hidden. And so how do we feel the ground? So the obvious aspect of the ground, especially the ground that's inside or the ground that's paved outside, is that it's hard. It's hard and it's flat. And when we stand upon it, we rear up from it. So there's a sense of it. It grounds. The ground grounds us. So it's something that we can rely upon and stand up from. So that's the external or the exoteric or the obvious, yeah. Now, if, for example, we're not on hard ground, we're walking on grass or on sand, there's a very different sense of the ground, because a soft ground like grass or soft soil or the sand, as you put the foot down, it doesn't just provide a hard surface for you to sort of push up from. It actually draws you in. Yeah, the softness draws you in. So this is what we want to feel. We want to feel the ground not simply as a hard surface that I rear up from, but as a sink, a soft substance that I actually drain into. Just like, you know, like imagine you're tipping a glass of water onto the sand, you know, you don't see it. As soon as it hits the sand, it's gone in, it's soaked in. You don't see it pooling and then slowly, you know. So this is the feeling that we want. We want to concentrate on that aspect of the ground, just to right the balance. So Taoism is all about striking a better balance, yeah. And what we find is that sinking, melting, soaking into the ground aspect is mainly through the back of you. Yeah? So it's your back flowing down the backs of your legs and through your heels. So we just want to feel as though the heels are just sort of melting into the ground. Like if you were standing on sand, you know, your heels would actually sink into the sand, and the front of your foot, which is wide, would actually not sink into the sand so much. You know, this is like Birkenstock shoes. You know, it's meant to, you know, with the negative heel, with the heel that's lower than the front of the shoe, is meant to simulate walking on sand, which is, you know, we really need to stretch the backs of the calves, especially, so that we can have this sense of sinking down. And it's very much a heavy sacrum that's just sinking down through the legs. So that's the energetic aspect, if you like. It's the sinking down the back of the leg. Now, the front of the leg is obviously doing the work, because these muscles are having to stay tight in order to hold me up. Otherwise, I'd fall down. So I don't want to fall down. So in my mind, I have to really be able to split the internal and the external. Yeah? Split the muscles here that are pushing me upwards with the feeling of sinking down the backs of your legs. Yeah. So like the students, they'll, you know, will be standing like this, and they'll be sort of struggling and saying to me, "Where do you feel it? Where do you feel it in your legs?" And I say, "In the back of the legs." Yeah. And they say, "Oh, I just feel it here. It's so painful." Yeah. But you just have to get through that. So you have to become interested in the bit that's hidden, the bit that's not obvious. That's the sort of personality type that's sort of attracted to this sort of work. Yeah. If you're content with the superficial, then this sort of work isn't for you. So just feeling this drain down the back of the leg. And then there's a sense that you're in the ground. And so the only place you can look is up. So it really allows the spirit to rise. This is this sort of paradox, that Taoist paradox. Okay, and now we just come forwards onto the front of the foot. So just lifting the heels. You don't even need to lift them off the ground. You just bring the weight forwards into the front of the foot. And just feel, you become unstable a little bit. You no longer have that grounding of the heel. And we feel the tremble, we enjoy the tremble, but at the same time, we still have that sort of heavy sacrum hanging down through it. So just feeling that double aspect, there's part of me that's, ooh, I'm going to fall like this. And then there's another part of me that's just hanging down, really quiet and still within that. And together they produce a balance, which is really energetic, yeah? And then we just rock back into the heels, but one at a time. So just put one heel down, and as you sink into it, just feel it hooking under, and then the other heel. So this feeling that your heels have reached back a little bit and have cut down underneath the feet. So the sense that your spine is being drawn down by the sinking of your heels. So when we're feeling the ground as a hard surface, then the lower back and the sacrum just gets a battering, because every time we put our foot down, there's a bang that goes up into here and traumatizes. So it damages. It doesn't just damage you, it damages the ground. Yeah. So what we're wanting to feel is the real melty gentleness. Yeah. So like Thich Nhat Hanh says, that the feet kiss the ground. Your heels kiss the ground. And this sense that something is projecting through the heel and down, so your root. Yeah? So your root is just your energy sinking into the ground. So just really feeling that sink aspect of the ground. And then just coming forwards again. And just keeping the sacrum heavy, just hanging through this trembly fizz. And then rocking back, so heel, heel, and then just open up to the earth, allow the earth to suck you down the backs of your legs and into it. So it's, so I walk, there's a big park along the river that flows through Tel Aviv. And I walk through it a few times a week to get to students' houses. And it's got paved paths, and it's got sort of grassy stretches. And what always fascinates me is just that how it changes your energy depending upon what your feet are being placed upon. Yeah. So when the surface is flat and hard, basically it just encourages you to take it as just a support that allows you to rush. Yeah, the support that encourages you to sort of whiz through, is to get to where you're going. Yeah, with a briskness. And as soon as I leave the path and go onto the grass, which not many people do, so the grass is quite soft. It's not the beaten track. As soon as I hit that, it's slow. I slow down because it's so enjoyable, that feeling of that softness underneath my feet, that I just really want to linger. So I just slow down. So I have to give myself more time to get there than I normally would, because I know I'm going to be slower. And so this is so here, I just want to get into that same sort of mindset that's enjoying the ground's softness drawing me in. So I can soften the ground in the room. I can, just by changing my mood, I can basically change the environment. Because it's like, in order to be present, in order to be really present, it's not enough to simply be an observer. You have to be a participant. Yeah. So something in you, so you have to allow yourself to be affected by what's around you. Yeah. So it's not just me, this sort of inviolable subject that's actually observing the things that surround me. I'm opening myself up and letting them all pull at me and enter me. And now let's just try the breathing. So exactly the same as what we were doing when we did it sitting down, but now, of course, you've got the pain in the legs to contend with. So feel the air. So swimming in air. You're feeling the air brushing the hands as you move through it. You're feeling the air coming into the lungs and out of the lungs. So you're bringing in cool air. And then as you breathe out, you're breathing out warmer air, because your own body has warmed it up. So they concentrate on the feeling on just by the nostrils. So as you breathe in, it cools down, and as you breathe out, it warms up. And just keeping that continuous. So if you can generate mind continuous, an unbroken thread through time of mind, then it will intensify. Whenever there's a break, you'll leak energy. And it will be more and more difficult to get into spirit. And then just basically just doing figures of eights and letting it turn you. So you're basically just working one side of the belly and then the other. And then just, so now we've just changed into just a simple figure of eight that just goes around the hips. So before we had a figure of eight in each hand. So here I'm just going around this hip, and then here I'm going around this hip. Let's just try this to one hand. So there's, it feels like this point here, this point in the inguinal fold, I'm sort of going in there and around this hip. So just really trying to separate the two legs out. So feeling the fold here, the inguinal fold, and the sacroiliac, and just trying to really relax those. So it almost feels like you could sort of take the leg off. You could detach your leg from the hip, from the pelvis. And then just a little bit with the other one. and then just into knocking the gates of life. Again, just feeling the two sides of your body, the two sides of the pelvis really being separate from each other. So feeling the centrifugal force of the turn, throwing your arms out, and the centripetal force in your dantian and lower back area that's drawing it in, that's balancing that centrifugal. So this area is pulling in to hold you close to the spine, which allows the arms to fly out. Just trying to feel the two legs really separate. So as I turn here, I don't want this knee to collapse in. I want the knee to feel like it's staying out. And that will make it, you won't be able to turn quite so much, but it's just much better for the knees. So just feeling the outside edges all the time, even when you come out of the foot. Okay, so let's just bring it back to riding horse, bring it back to ground as sink. Yeah, so the ground grounds you, but the ground also ungrounds you. So when the ground is behaving like a sink, it's ungrounding. It's taking away the solidity and just drawing your body into it. So it becomes the abyss. And that's what we're terrified of, that aspect of the ground. I went to a funeral on Sunday, and all the funerals I've been to before have been cremations. So you just see the coffin trundling down into the furnace. So this one was a Jewish funeral. So no coffin, just a body wrapped in ribbons like a mummy, and then covered with a black cloth, which they take off before. And just, you know, the poignancy of just seeing the shape of this person that I loved, yeah, You just see the shape of the hands lumping on the belly where the hands are crossed over. And slowly being wheeled to the graves. And then, the man that put the body in, he basically has to lift the body up and lower it into the hole so gently, with so much respect. And just, that real sort of primal poignancy of a body going into the earth. And then, so they put it into this hole, and then they put sort of stone slabs on top. And then they shovel in the soil, which in Tel Aviv is sand, because basically Tel Aviv is one big sand dune. And then all the people that are there, they all walk past the grave and just place something, normally like a little pebble that they've picked up somewhere, just place it on the grave and say their own little prayer. So this real feeling for where you're going to end up, basically. They say that meditation is largely just practicing for death. It's like the samurai, they meditate before they went into battle and convince themselves that they're already dead. And it just liberates the spirit because they're not afraid of death. They know they're going to die. And so they just are willing to take risks that normally they wouldn't. Okay, now let's just try just a little bit of the walking. Just to feel the way the foot goes on the ground. So I just want to be able to place the heel in such a way that the ground underneath my heel sucks me down into it. So normally when I place my heel, I would, you feel that the ground is hard, and it's actually quite enjoyable to give it a bit of a bang and just feel the reverberation through the body. But this area does really get punished. So what I want to do is just to be able to place the heel and just really feel it drawing me down. And it's that makes me come forwards into the foot. And so I really have to stay back. I really have to linger in my supporting foot long enough to just feel the draw, feel myself being pulled down. So, ooh. So just going in a circle, doesn't really matter. Don't worry too much about the structure of the circle. Just try and keep a continuous walk. If you had a really large room, then you could do a really large circle. But if your space is limited, so we're just trying to feel the yield. You're yielding to the ground, and the ground is yielding to you, and that's pulling you both together. You're being drawn into the ground, and the ground is being drawn up into your leg. So this is the root. So I place the foot so gently. So again, it's what I call the negative touch. So you're placing the foot, but as you place it, you're also pulling away. So even though the foot is going down, it's tentative, it's drawing away from the ground at the same time. So very, very respectful. So one and ooh. And I just want to really be able to melt down the leg and into the ground, into and under the foot. So Nitzan used to practice this to get, to give his students an image and a feeling. They'd work with medicine balls, those heavy leather balls that they use in gyms, and they'd throw them to each other. So as you were catching the ball, your arms obviously had to reach out, and then as soon as the ball came in, you'd be moving with it because it was so heavy. You'd have to go with its momentum, and then you can just loop it back and throw it back to the person. Yeah. So my leg has to reach out in order to make progress. But as it's going down, it has to draw the ground into it. So this sense that your foot is going forwards to reach out, but as it goes down, it's pulling in. It's pulling in towards the other foot. And it's that actually draws your body forwards. But it's also that softens the impact with the ground. And then you can just start to put the toes down first and use the figure of 8 in the foot. So I'm going around the foot. So I'm turning this way to put the toes down, and then I'm yielding this way to bring the heel down. So the foot is extending, but so that the toes can do this. The toes can grip, and then the heel goes down. So there's so much happening. This is what I mean by phenomenological density or richness. There's so much happening that there's no room for your mind to think to itself. So your mind is just doing what it should do, which is just really observe and be always looking for a better balance. So how do I incorporate the new detail that I've never quite noticed before, so that I can build this better picture, this more accurate picture of reality? And then we can just change direction. Yeah, so all the time you're noticing things and then letting it go, letting them go. Yeah, so you don't become encumbered by your own insights. They're fleeting. They're useful whilst they're there, but you want to let them go. John called them yesterday's cold mashed potatoes. Ooh. So that point where the foot touches the ground, you really want to be able to stretch that out. Yeah, so there's a sense that the foot sort of hovers for a second or so before it actually goes down. And just really feeling, so it's like the foot sort of hovers like a couple of inches from the ground, and then it's your supporting leg that goes down, that takes it down to the ground. And then it's like it's got real power. So I just sink the foot down rather than just lowering the leg that's stepping. So just always looking for intensity. Yeah, so remember, when we sink physically, as well as energetically, it's this area, it's the belly area that's tightening to get you down. It's the drawer of your belly that's actually sucking you down to the ground as much as the ground sucking you. Okay. So let's just bring it back. Yeah, so just feel the heels and imagine them just really digging into the ground. So it feels like your back has just slipped down an inch or so, and your front has just remained where it is. So you've just slipped like this. I've sort of slipped like this. So that your heels are getting into the ground and the front of your foot, the ball of your foot and your toes are settled on the ground. And never really feeling the ground as being something too solid. Yeah. The problem is that when we have a hard surface and we stand upon it, there's something in the mind that just cuts off from the ground because it knows it doesn't need to worry anymore. I've got solid ground. I can now think to myself. So what we want to feel is it actually, I can't, because it's drawing me in all the time. Again, like the abyss, like this bottomless pit. It's not as though I sink into the ground and then feel hard ground and then think, okay, now I'm okay. There's a sense that, oh, it's endless. The sinking is endless. And then when we come up, we just try and maintain that feeling of the heels digging in. And if anything, the front of your body just rising a little bit. Even when the legs are as straight as we ever have them in Tai Chi. Yeah, so my heels dig in and the front of the foot is really for moving. So if you were running, then just not putting the heels down and feeling so light, so fleet and light of foot that you barely leave a trace. And yet when you stand still, ooh, you've gone right down inside. So you're tapping the ground and the ground is tapping you. So like the roots of a plant, So the roots of the plant penetrate the earth, which gives the plant stability, but it also enables the plant to draw nutrients, water and minerals. So it's the same with us. Okay, so let's finish.